Welcome to episode 15 of America in Crisis, Breaking the Cycle of Addiction. Set your DVRs to record. My name is David Hunt, and I am your host. With us today are Joe and Joni Maffei. The Maffeis were guest speakers at Middlesex District Attorney Marion Ryan's opioid task force meeting in August. They lost their son, Brian Diddy Nolet, in 2015 to an overdose. Brian was featured in the documentary film Beyond the Wall with our past guest, Louis Diaz. Today, the Maffeis will share their unique approach to seeing to it that everybody that needs a ride to treatment can quickly get the help they need. Joe, Joni, welcome to our show.
How you doing, Dave?
Doing very good. Thank you so much for appearing.
Sure.
Joni, we'll start with you. How old was Brian when he passed?
He was 34.
34 years old. And can you tell us what drug did he overdose on?
Fentanyl.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You're his mom. What was Brian like growing up as a child? And you can take all the time you need. I want to know Brian the person, not the number.
Brian was always a character. There was nothing normal about him. He always stood out. He was a leader even as a child. Big heart, always had a big heart, did everything for everybody. Funny, helpful, charismatic. He was, he did everything in excess. So it would go both ways.
What was he like growing up? What did he like to do after school?
After school.
Young school, elementary school. What was Brian growing up as a young child?
He liked soccer, he liked basketball, he had a skateboard. Back then, the big skateboard was big. Break dancing was big, so he would be the one, spinning on his head and stuff.
Of course.
They would gather around. They had cardboards poured out, and they all took turns, and he was huge into Michael Jackson, and as he grew, he got more into hip-hop. Everybody was into it. So he went through the whole hip-hop stage, and then he was a pretty good rapper himself.
Okay.
He was always practicing. He could talk very fast. I think he did that normally anyway. He was very busy child. So.
Do you have many friends?
Always, always. He has so many that even as he grew up and as an adult, he had a very wide spectrum of friends. Yeah.
And did he have any brothers and sisters in his family?
He had a sister. Yeah, she was younger. And,
were they close?
When they were younger, yes, but then as time went on, they were kind of separated because he was in and out of jail a lot. And then she was doing her own thing, and so as time goes on, they live in different areas and everything. But they would come together every now and then.
So except for the jail part, he was a typical kid growing up like everybody else.
Yeah, well, it wasn't typical.
I wasn't going to say typical.
It wasn't typical anywhere he went. He stood out. He was the kid that got picked out of the crowd, and he was the kid that just stood out everywhere.
He had charisma.
Yeah.
He had charisma.
And did Brian have any kids of his own and a family of his own?
He has two.
He
has
does?
a daughter and a son.
And how old are they now?
His son just turned 15, and his daughter is, I want to say, 10. I think she just turned 10.
10 or 11, something like that.
Yeah.
Remember how old they were roughly when he passed?
She was very young. She was about 5. She was very young, and his son was about 12, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. His son was amazing. He just had to be there for everything. He was a good kid.
Joe, can you tell us, when did you first become aware of your son's drug use?
We didn't become aware of it till a little bit later in life. I guess he was using for a while, and we didn't know anything about it because he always seemed the same. He was just a happy-go-lucky kid, and you couldn't really tell. And then I think, when did we find out? After his first overdose? Is that when it really?
No, I found out sooner than that. I didn't know it was a regular use, though he did confide in me after his breakup of his marriage that he had just come out of detox, which I didn't know. He had a heroin. And I thought he was all set with that, but found out later, no.
And as parents, what steps did you try to take to get help for your son? What was available and what were you offering him?
There wasn't a whole lot. I mean, detox at that time, to get a bed, the only way you could get a bed is to call every hour to find out if there's a bed. So I took it upon myself and went, and I would call starting 8 o'clock in the morning, and I would call every hour on the hour until they ended taking calls 8 o'clock at night.
And we didn't even get him in. You were calling for
No,
like
he
5,
told me
6
after a
days,
while,
7
he said,
days.
just forget it, just forget it. He had gone to a couple of other places, but there was one place that he had wanted to go, and he came to me in the end and asked if I would have him sanctioned in court.
And that's how we got him in.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that you had a vision problem.
Yep.
How did that affect your ability to take him back and forth to places he needed to go?
Well, we didn't really take him anywhere. He was very independent. Anything that ever had to happen, Brian did it himself. He pretty much did everything on his own. He didn't like to have people help him. He was a one-man team. So whatever he needed to do, he did it all on his own. We were just there with support. If he needed to call us, we were there. So he pretty much, did we take him to, when he got sanctioned, or did they take him in?
I took him.
You took him in?
I picked him up. That's when I got all his stuff.
Yeah.
Because he was, at the time, living with friends, because he had been on the streets. I mean, it gets you to that point where
Right.
you are now on the street, and you're at the mercy of friends taking you in here and there. So we loaded up my truck with all his stuff, and then we went to the courthouse.
Yeah. He was up in Lowell, so he had a
Yeah,
network.
he lived in Lowell.
He lived in Lowell, and there was a big network. You know, he had a ton of friends, so
Yeah.
he managed to be able to work things out all the time.
So he's basically trying to do everything on his own without your help, but you were there for him if he needed it.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm sure you'd move heaven and earth if you could make things work for him.
We done a lot of stuff to try to help him.
Well, how did you find out about his passing? How did you get the news?
Well, that was a little rough. We were actually up at our land in Vermont. We were doing work up there, and Joni, I think was it a text, babe, or a phone call?
We didn't have a whole lot of cell service, but I think I started getting calls. We were having to lay stone. It was around Columbus Day, so actually
I had a big machine up there. We were digging. We were working on a road.
And we couldn't come down the mountain, obviously, till all the rock was down, because we would have gotten stuck. As a matter of fact, Sunday was his 4th anniversary.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started to get calls that he was dead. I got calls that he wasn't being revived. No, well, this was his friends, and they were all very upset.
Yeah.
And, getting texts, you need to come home. And then I got actually a call from the hospital itself, and I spoke to the doctor.
And we got there about 10 o'clock that night.
Yeah, I raced home as fast as I could.
We got there
to
about
the
10 o'clock
hospital.
at night. So we were there all day knowing that he needed us, but we couldn't get down the mountain because there was no road.
And that must have been agonizing.
Oh,
It was terrible.
It was tough.
It
Yeah.
was rough, yeah.
You know, people that use drugs and they do this, they don't think about what it's doing to the parents and what puts the family through. I have a couple of guests that are coming on, and one they've already talked to that absolutely devastated their family, and they don't even realize the love the parents have,
Yeah.
that the parent will never stop loving that child.
Yeah, I mean, he was really good about that, though. He didn't put us through a lot. He really didn't. I mean, I know a lot of other horror stories where the kids were stealing from the house and stealing from the parents. He never did that with us.
He actually took pride in that, where he didn't steal from people.
Nope.
He, he worked very hard and made his own money. And
Yeah.
I'm sure there were times when he gave me the wrong excuse
Yeah.
as to why he needed to borrow some money. But as far as stealing or anything like that,
Yeah, they always paid us
didn't-
back.
He didn't do that.
So he did. He had a lot of honor, as a person. He had a lot of honor and a lot of integrity as a guy.
Do you have any idea how he first got into drugs? Was it family, was it friends, was it hanging out? How do you think he first got introduced?
I don't know for sure, but I would think it's just like, most young kids get into drugs. They start drinking, they're starting to party. And I mean, I remember when, I grew up in the rock and roll business, so
Yeah.
I mean, it was very easy. It was always there. It was always around you. Back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, there's sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how we lived. So, I think that's basically how it started. And I think a lot of depression might have pushed him to keep going a
Yeah,
little
we
bit
had
further.
we had quite a background in my previous marriage as well. So I'm sure there was also some behavioral things. And,
Yeah.
when you're with your other kids, of course, that's a big scene, is the party and the pills. And I think it started with the pills.
Yeah, I
myself.
think it did.
I was going to go into the next question. Could you have told us what he started at? Did he progress to fentanyl, or did it just go right to fentanyl?
I don't even think he even knew it was fentanyl, to tell you the truth. Did he?
Yeah, I would think that he did. I mean, it started with, I think it it started with
Percocets or something?
He was into ecstasy. I mean, way back. He did the ecstasy.
Yeah, that was a while back when that was the rage.
Then was into, you know, they liked the Valiums and the perks, and then it was the Vicodin. He was into that, and then you know, the drinking. He did everything in excess. He lived in excess, no matter what it was.
I mean, that's what the scene was. It's whatever came about is what you did. You know,
But the
whatever someone
heroin, I
came
remember
up
him
with.
telling me, he says, I'm never going to get to that point where it needles, because he doesn't, which is a joke. He'll tell he doesn't like needles, but he's covered in tattoos.
I noticed that.
Yeah.
But
But,
we flash a picture up of Diddy again.
but it actually did.
Let's take a face shot of Diddy.
Yeah.
But the fentanyl came through. Once they find out that, first of all, it's cheaper, and it's stronger, and instead of being a fear of taking it, that's what gets them to get
It's like
to
it's
it.
the better stuff.
Do
Yeah.
these tattoos signify anything that you can recognize?
Sure. The Boston
Yeah, well, that I can recognize.
his finger to New York.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. He has his daughter's name under his front of his neck.
Am I seeing a glove up there? Was he?
He was a boxer.
Okay, I know it's
So
the
that's an
boxing glove.
MMA glove. So
Yeah.
he was a boxer. Yeah. He used to say that his body was pretty much a story of everywhere he's been and who he was, and
And the people he knew.
a lot of his tattoos were basically a fight of good and evil. So he had angels and demons all over. So he felt that was kind
people that
of
have
part
passed.
of him.
A lot of people that have passed.
He has a wall. Yeah.
He has a wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did I hate to ask this question, but how did that change your life? I know it's obvious. Let's let our viewers and the kids out there know. How does one's life change when your son is no longer with you?
You miss him every day.
Yeah.
You learn to live with a hole in your heart, because he was my heart.
Okay.
And also how our life changed was we realized that the epidemic was much bigger than we thought it was. Because if it's not your kid, you go along your daily life and you don't really think about it. It's just a statistic. Oh, this heroin's killing our kids, killing our country. But it doesn't impact you until it finally, either you know someone, your son, your daughter, your uncle, your brother, your father, your wife, until it hits you. And then it changed us because we wanted to do something positive. All right, so we wanted to just not let his passing just go and have that hole in our heart, like Joni talks about. But we wanted to do something that would, we could help ourselves to heal, and that's when we started to want to do something more.
Okay. Now, before we continue with the show, the following questions might be upsetting to some of our viewers. So, Joe, Joni, we can cut the camera at any time, and we can retake if we have to. I know this part's going to get upsetting. So, these are very personal questions, and they're very hard for me to ask also, so sometimes I lose it. The last time I did it, I lost it. We had to cut. So,
Sure.
I understand, obviously, it's the anniversary. He passed in October, the start of the holidays. Can you share with our viewers what the first Thanksgiving is like when your son is not there?
My son loved Thanksgiving, and we found out, actually, that first Thanksgiving, I got a text that morning, and it was from his ex-wife. And I did not know that amongst all the other things that he did to help people, he used to collect money to buy turkeys and food for those who could not have it. And someone left an envelope on her windshield. They must not have known that he had passed, and said, for Diddy.
Wow.
So that kind of turns things like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That it was just an awesome feeling to know that he's still, his ways are still continuing on. And, that's another reason why we do what we do. We want to honor him and continue to do all the good that, in his honor, the way he would have done too.
He would, he would do, at the funeral, people were coming up to us, mothers were coming up to Joni and thanking her because Brian had saved many kids when they overdosed. He got them to the hospitals. And we were just like, we didn't know anything about it. And they would come up saying, thank you, Brian saved our son 2 weeks ago. Brian saved our son last month. And he'd be with them and they would OD, and he would get them to the hospital, get them there and save them.
And then when he needed the help, nobody was
He
there
just
for
couldn't
him.
help
No
himself.
one could help himself. Was
Couldn't
he
help.
alone or was he with people?
He was home, at his home, but he had locked himself in the bathroom. So that was a little tough.
Yeah.
They didn't know until they couldn't get any response, and then they had to knock the door down, so, yeah.
But he was no one he could yell for help for downstairs or anything.
Yeah, I think,
No?
I think what they say, he was pretty immediate. And they say he couldn't.
Well, it was a few shots, but they got him, supposedly they got his heart beating again. They got him into the hospital, but when they told me when they got to the hospital, they
damage
did
was
a
done.
brain scan,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and there was no activity.
By the time we got there, he was pretty much just in a
He was on
coma.
life support.
He was on life support. And we stayed there.
For 3 days.
She stayed with him for 3 days, never left his side for 3 days in the hospital. And to let you know what kind of impact he has on people, when we got there at 10 o'clock, there must have been over 100 kids at that hospital, all lining up the hallways and the lobbies. There were just kids everywhere.
Yeah, we owned the floor.
We owned the entire floor. All his friends, all his crew
They all
were
took
there.
time. I wanted them all
And-
to have a chance to
And
say
they were
goodbye.
there for 3 days. I mean, till the final day when we had to let him go.
I had a coworker that overdosed many years ago, probably about 10 years ago. He was a coworker of mine, and no one knew what happened. And we went to the hospital, and of course, we're getting the good news, that they call it. We didn't hear what really happened. Like, oh, what's his chance of recovery? Was he coming back to work? We didn't know how bad it was,
Sure.
that he was brain dead and just his body was working.
Yeah.
And they pulled the plug, and they were actually able to donate some of the organs. That's the only good thing that happened out of him. He got cremated.
Right.
But we're at work, like, when's he coming back? We had no idea. He was on life support, and he was never coming back.
Did you know he was using?
I know we didn't have a clue.
Yeah.
Like a week before he overdosed, apparently he started getting a little less agitated. We thought he was just in a bad mood, but he had been on, we never knew it. He was on it for 7 years prior. And he got off of it. And then he met a girl who actually was using heroin.
Oh.
And all at once he started using it again. And he overdosed right there in the girl's arms. And she was so afraid to allegedly, use that word carefully on TV, allegedly,
Yeah.
to call anybody in the apartment. She's Facebooking, calling friends, what do I do, what do I do? And by the time the EMS got there, he was already way too far beyond. They
Sure.
Narcaned him 4 times.
Yeah.
Got something back, worked him in the hospital. Of course, he's comatose and he's on life support.
Yeah.
You got an ambulance crew that did everything possible,
Right.
but when for 20 to 30 minutes, there was no breathing, no breath. There's nothing you can do.
Right.
And the person was afraid, what do I do? I've got a dead person in my apartment. I mean, she freaked out not knowing what to do, and it was a tragic turn of events.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like you said, you didn't know. And, there's a stigma these days about, drug users and things like that. And, people first think that it's a junkie behind some dumpster in the city.
Yeah.
But it's not that anymore. It's firemen, it's policemen, it's teachers, it's business people, it's soccer moms. Everybody somehow gets involved, and it's not always just the kid that wants to go out and party. A lot of times people get an injury and they get hurt, and Big Pharma was pushing a lot of, OxyContins and stuff like that, and prescription medication, and the country got addicted. And that's one of the big things. They're going after a lot of these big pharmaceutical companies because, they allowed all this stuff to happen. So it could be a soccer mom that was just lifting up her kid to put him in the car, threw her back out. And guess what? They put her on OxyContins or Percocets, and next thing you know, she's addicted. And that's how easy it is. And all of a sudden, they cut your prescription off. You were getting a script, and you had a copay of $6. Well, all of a sudden now, they say you don't need it anymore, but they're addicted. So now they can find out that they have to go to the streets and buy it. And now it was a $6 for 30 pills. It's now $300 for 30 pills. And then they found out, wow, I could just get heroin and snort it, and that's $6. And before you know it, they're addicted. And that's what's happened to so many people in our country, that easy.
Why are we seeing a pattern here, viewers? This is what I've been preaching since I started this thing. Bottom line is, it happens. Good people get on it. They have to do it, just as Joe explained. They need it. They cannot get it anymore, and they're hooked on this chemical, this drug that's on them at no fault of their own, and then they just have to put it back in their body, and it's horrible. These big farmers, they made billions, and we're losing, I think it was 110,000 people that died of this last year across the country. The numbers are staggering, and they're making the profits.
And it's not really what people think. It's not like when people, you'll know when someone has just gotten their heroin because they're normal. It's when they're not normal is when they don't have it, because they start getting dope sick. So if you don't have your heroin, you start sweating, you start getting anxious, you start getting irritable. Sometimes you start having diarrhea. There's all these problems when you don't have it.
Well, your body hurts.
Your body starts
You're
aching.
sick.
It's called being
It's like
dope
the
sick.
flu.
So if you wake up in the morning, I had a friend of mine that was addicted to Percocets, and he was doing 70 perks a day.
What?
70. But he had to take 8 to 10 perks in the morning just to get out of bed because his body was aching so bad that he had to take it just to become normal. So people always expect these drug dealers to be walking around all like this. When you see them and they're on heroin, they're completely normal. You'd be like, hey, how you doing? How are you? It's when they're not on it, that's when you see them anxious and all irritated and stuff like that. So it's when they first do it, it's to get high. And after a while, when they become addicted, they're doing it to become normal.
It's a maintaining.
Just to
yeah,
maintain.
maintenance, yeah.
And that's why people say, geez, I never knew the guy was on heroin, because yeah, he was on it. And
Because
he
he's
seemed like
trying
a-
to feel good. He's just trying to feel normal to get
That's
back
what
to where he
happens.
was, because he was so used to it. Then he got his supply cut off because he was through his injury.
Yep.
Yet his body got addicted and used to the substance.
Right.
And he just wants to feel back the way he was. And a lot of the people that got hurt, they've told me straight out, they don't get high on the stuff. They're taking it for the injury. They're not getting pleasure.
Right.
They're just getting high on the stuff. I mean, sorry, my mistake. They're not getting high on it. They're just taking it for their pain. The pain is over. And now they just want to feel normal. They can't live without it. And they said they've
Exactly.
never gotten high. They've never felt good per se. They've never felt buzzed. It stopped the pain, but now that it's over, their body just goes to muck.
Exactly what happens. So there's that stigma. It's like, this is what people that aren't educated in it, this is what they believe. They think, oh, they're just out getting high. No, they're not. When they
No, they
first
can
start,
stop whenever they want.
oh, they could stop whenever they want. It's not like that. It actually becomes a disease, and your body, just like it needs food, it needs water, it needs oxygen, it needs that just so that it can be normal. So people don't really understand that, and that's why, we're out there trying to help people, educate people, do things like this to let people know it's not really what you think.
And this is why we put these shows out. Let's go back to the difficult questions.
Sorry about that. You got me going. I just stopped running with
you
it.
have been so enlightening. This is what people need to hear, not just from me, but for parents that live through it, because they're like, who am I? I've never been through it. They're like, who am I to be talking about it? You've never gone through it. You didn't lose anybody on it. You've got credibility. I hope my viewers take me as credibility, but I can't tell you honestly, yeah, I know what it's like. Guess what? I don't know what it's like. I've never used a drug. I've never overdosed. Thank God I didn't lose anybody in my family from using drugs. I lost my mom 3 years ago, and it wasn't for drugs, it was for heart. And when they say people get over things, I'll tell you straight out, if I'm looking at you guys in the audience, it's hard for me to say this on video, guess what? You don't get over it.
No.
It's gonna take a lot longer. And I had a wonderful relationship, but when somebody you care about and you love is gone, they are gone. They're not coming back. And sometimes I wonder how my guests can cope with it, how they can come out and sit on my show and answer these questions. And when the cameras are off and they go back home, did I trigger some memories like the holidays? The first Christmas, what we did these kids without dad for the first Christmas? How did that passing impact the children?
Well, they did come. It's hard to remember that day because it's kind of a fog to me
Okay.
that day. But I wanted to give them each something special of their father, and
Okay.
I try every Christmas to give them something of their father's
Right.
so that they have something from Dad. I did give them special gifts that he wore all the time. They each got one with a special box, and they're very quiet anyways. I mean, his daughter is more of a talker, but his son is very quiet. So I know he misses them a lot.
Can I ask you, what age did the kids find out how the daddy passed, or was it, did you tell them right away, or did you wait a while to tell them how did he
Their
pass?
mother took care of that. I
Yeah.
really don't. I
Okay.
mean, obviously they
They
were
know
there
now,
at the
yeah.
wake.
Yeah.
They were at the hospital as well. They
Okay.
were there with him.
I can't even imagine. Well, actually, I can't imagine
Yeah.
because I watched my mother
Well, that's
go.
why I said I was so amazed at his son. His son wanted to be a pallbearer.
Yeah.
I wanted him to walk with his aunt, maybe in front or something, and he wouldn't have it.
I couldn't
and-
even speak at I couldn't even do the eulogy at my mother's wake. I just couldn't do
It's
it.
tough. It's tough, She has a really hard time, I I get to observe. I get to observe, and she's very strong. She'll never really let you know, but I know. I can always tell, like, this time of year is real tough with us.
Oh, exactly, Ron. In fact, our next guest, we had to postpone filming because it was the anniversary of the passing of his child. So they're going to be coming in later, probably my next taping, but that's why there's such a gap in these shows for this month. We had somebody coming in, but it was just too close. I could not put the parents through that with the anniversary of their child and have them on camera right before that. It's just, we're not going to do that here. So they're going to come on at a later date, so that's why we have a big gap.
It's understandable. There's a lot of internal stuff that goes on.
And they wanted to come on. I said, no, this isn't the time. You take your time to grieve and you do what you need to do.
Yeah.
But they actually wanted to come on. I thought it was better that we don't, and we pick it up at a later date. So, Joe, after losing your son, you decided enough is enough. You decided to take a step so no other family is going to go through this. What did you do?
Okay, so what we decided to do is, I said to Joni, I said, hey babe, we got to do something. So I've been in the music business all my life. My mother was a singer and an actor way back when. My father was a teacher at the Boston Conservatory. I went to Berkeley. My manager back in the day was the manager for Aerosmith. So during the 70s, I was always involved with music. I mean, we opened for the Police, we opened for the Pointer Sisters, Mountain, and we were in the mecca of Boston rock and roll back then. There was Aerosmith, The Cars, Jay Giles. There was just everyone. Boston was it when I was in the music business. And I got out of it. I ended up getting married, having kids, and the music business wasn't paying the bills. And it wasn't the lifestyle I really wanted to live either, being out in clubs and bars and stuff like that. I didn't think it was a good way to raise a family. So I sort of got out of it. But when we lost our son, Brian, I wanted to get back into it because I knew that music will help us raise money. Because I knew that I still have contacts in the music business. I still have my buddies that was the manager at Aerosmith. We still have an in to sort of get to people if we really needed it. But we didn't know what to do, all right? So one of the problems that I've always had was a vision problem, so I never drove. So we would ask different organizations and different people, what's needed? And they said, well, one of the big things that's needed is transportation. There's treatment centers, there's clinics, there's shelters, but there's no way to get the clients there. So I said, wow, that's a great idea. Why don't we create a transportation company, and our contribution will be getting kids to treatment, getting them to detox. And then we were going to use music to raise money so that we could supply the services to get people there. So we started a business, a 501c3 nonprofit, and it's called Mighty Drum. And if people want to go on, they can go on our website. That's our logo right there. You guys can go on our website. It's mightydrum.org, and you can sort of read our story and see some of the stuff that we've been doing. And that's what we started, and we started a program called Rise to Recovery.
Okay, and what can you tell us about Rise to Recovery?
All right, you're letting me go here.
I'm going to let you go.
Okay, so Rise to Recovery is, we started with a small shelter in Waltham. That's where me and Joni live, is in Waltham. And it was called the Waltham Community Day Center. So we contacted them, and we wanted to see if they needed any transportation. And they said absolutely. So we connected with them, and we started getting kids to detox from that shelter. And in Waltham, through the Public Health Department, there's a Red Cross, and there's Salvation Army. They would send people up to the Waltham Day Center, and then they'd connect with us, and then we get them off to treatment. And then what happened was we got a call. Well, what happened was we got on Fox 25 News.
Okay.
They heard about us. So we went on Fox 25, and they did a big interview with us on that. And the very next day, I got a call from Lowell General Hospital, which was ironic because that's where we lost our son. Brian passed away at Lowell Memorial Hospital. So we went full circle. We're back to where we started, which was, I'm a very spiritual person, so I just believe that it's all in the stars of what's going on here, and this is our mission. So They contacted us in a department called the Circle of Care, and they get all people from Lowell to detox and treatment. And they actually have a reach out team, a street team that would go out to Tent City and the different homeless places that people were living, and they would go there and actually convince people and talk them into going into treatment. So we ended up having a partnership with them, so now we had two. We had the shelter in Waltham and we had Lowell General. And then the Lowell Sun ended up doing a story on us there, and then Lowell Public Health called us up. So one thing keeps leading to another and leading to another until that's how we just started getting the ball rolling. And since January, we brought over 100 kids to treatment since January of this year.
So exactly, Rides to Recovery does what for the public?
Rides to Recovery, first of all, we work with other 501c3 organizations. Okay. All right? So we would work with like a different hospital, and the hospital would bring in the clients, and then from there what happens is we connect with them, and they have our logo on their phone. It's what they call a drop-down. It's an app.
Okay.
And we partnered up with Uber. So what happens is now is they have an app, and they call Uber, and then Uber gets the people and takes them to treatment, and we get billed.
Okay.
All right? So one of the problems that we had is that other places tried doing transportation, but they ran into a lot of problems because their business model really wasn't up to speed. They had to get drivers, they had to get cars, they had overhead, maintenance, gas, insurance. So by the time I'd actually got to doing service, the money dwindled down because it was all about the first half of it. So we get people, and one of the problems that happens, David, is when someone gets dope sick, like we talked about earlier, yes, there's a very small window of when they're willing to go to treatment. So if say we were in a counselor's office and they convinced them that they should go. Well, because they're getting sick, really what they want to do is get heroin to feel better. So if they say to them, your ride will come in a couple of hours, we can get you there, or there's a taxi coming in an hour, you're going to lose them.
Correct.
You know, they're not going to wait. They're going to say,
Absolutely.
I got to make a call, I got to go have a butt, and they're going to walk out the door and boom, they're going to go look for their supplier and use. With us, and the model that we've developed is when someone is ready to go to treatment, the counselor pulls out their phone, looks at, hits Muddy Drum, drop down comes in, calls Uber, within 3 to 10 minutes, there's a car outside. We got them in the car and we got them on their way to treatment.
That's absolutely amazing, because before they change their mind and wait till the next morning
got
and
'em.
walk out the door, they're getting the help that they need.
I think
So-
the average time is when I was reported is 6 minutes.
6 minutes. We're
now.
We're getting the car to them and on their way.
Now, can the person call you directly? Does it have to be through a reference on a hospital?
Right now, it has to go through the 501c3s. They have to be the ones that do all that.
That initiate that?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, because you know, when you give carte blanche to a kid that's using, they'll abuse it. The user will abuse it.
What's the cost of the ride to the organization, roughly?
Roughly, it's $30. We'll take anyone anywhere in Massachusetts, okay? So if they're in Lowell and they need to get to Plymouth, we'll get them there. If they're in Plymouth and they need to get to Worcester, we'll get them there. So wherever they need to go in the state of Massachusetts, we'll take them there. So sometimes our fares are $140, $130, sometimes they're $15. And really what happens is we average it out. So over the course of the last 6 months, we average it out. It's roughly about $30 to get somebody to treatment, roughly, if you average it out.
So how do you get funded?
Well,
Other than your constitute, how do you get funded? How would somebody fund you?
well, you know, we take donations on our website. People can donate. Okay, we've gotten a couple of small grants, and we go out and we do performances. We bring different musicians in, and we'll do a show, and we'll do a fundraiser, and the money that we get from the fundraiser will go to our services, and that's been our job. Is to get people, whether it's, you know, we're trying to get more corporate people, but if they don't know about us, then they don't know to help us. And a lot of times they want to find out that a nonprofit is credible. So for the last couple of years, we've been just building up our credibility. We just started working with McLean's Hospital, which
Okay.
is a very, world-renowned hospital, and working with they work with partners in Mass General. So, and then they see our track record. They see that we have a 100% program where all the money that we make, our success is 100%, and all the money, Joni and I don't take a penny. All the money that we get goes into service.
So there's no admin cost. If someone wants to donate $100, that $100 goes to the program.
Goes to the program.
There's no salaries. That's awesome.
Yeah. Maybe later when we're in the millions, me and Joni might take $400 or $500. But right now, everything that we get, everything that's donated goes right to service.
So you're a nonprofit, so another organization, a large corporation that's watching this could say, hey, that's a great program.
Right.
They can make a nonprofit donation as a tax deduction.
They can absolutely do that, yep.
And it's saving somebody's life. Actually saving a lot of lives.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we're starting to develop a program. It's called Buy a Ride. And our new website hasn't come out yet, but when it comes out, you'll be able to see it. And what we're going to try to do is approach different corporations and say, if people in your corporation want to buy one ride, will the corporation match it? So if there's 200 employees and they all chip in $30, will the corporation, the higher ups, will the corporation match that? And that way we can start to get people treatment twice as fast.
So how much have you basically raised so far since you've started this roughly to cover these expenses?
We've probably raised close to 40, 50,000.
And that's all gone to rides so far?
It's all gone to rides.
What can you tell me about, I've heard this word Rock for Recovery has been thrown around. What was Rock for Recovery?
Rock and Roll to Recovery. Yeah.
Rock and Roll to Recovery. That was a show that we did last year to raise money. And I play around with a lot of local, big names in the local area. So we had James Montgomery there.
Okay.
We had David Hull, who plays with the Joe Perry Project. We had Jeff Levine, who's actually a New York studio guy. He came up and he plays with Springsteen, and he plays with Hall & Oates and McCartney's band. And we had George McCann. He plays with Steven Tyler, Muddy Waters, B.B. King.
Wow.
And who else? Who am I missing? And we had
That's it.
and we had James,
And the Mighty Drum Band, who
Mighty-
were all professional in their own right.
And how much did all this raise to go to the cause?
I think last year we raised close to that night. We raised close to 17 grand that night.
Wow.
Yeah.
So with your service, basically day and night, someone gets to the 501(c) and they get that referral, they can get that Uber to treatment anytime during the day and night.
That's right. That's right. And the more we do podcasts, the more we do interviews. I'm the guy out there knocking on doors. I'm the one that's out there really, Joni is the backbone of the business. She's the admin. And, we start working sometimes at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then we'll do our day job, and then we'll work at night all the way up to 10 or 11 o'clock at night. We'll still work.
Do you offer your services just for Waltham residents where you live, or is it for anybody that happens to find out about it?
Anybody that wants to help, that needs us help, we're going to get to it. We do a lot of work right now with District Attorney Marion Ryan, as you spoke. So what happened, that's
She's
how we met.
opened a lot of doors for us,
So
too.
we'll go and we'll do something. We're doing something October 23rd, and that's at Newton Wellesley Hospital. And what she does is she invites other communities to come. So there'll be community leaders, there'll be, there'll be superintendents, police chiefs, fire chiefs, first responders of maybe 8 or 10 communities. And then me and Joni will go there and I'll present. I'll go on and basically do what I'm doing here. I just open my mouth and go. And my job there is to recruit everybody that's in that place. And I'm not camera shy. I don't have a problem getting up and talking in front of 10 people. I'm a martial arts instructor by nature, so I've been used to getting up and speaking. I've taught down at the FBI Academy. We trained as 10 special forces up at Fort Devens. I'm used to working with soldiers, policemen, 50, 100 people at a time, and I do that pretty naturally. So to come on and speak here or to go out and do public speaking, it's pretty simple for me to do. And I think I'm the right guy to do it.
No, I noticed, you did a great job at the task force meeting. Marion Ryan, she's done an amazing job as a district attorney, trying to get these programs going and giving people the platform. It's great that you're out here, but if people don't know you're out here, you spoke, about 50 police fire chiefs at the last meeting?
Yep.
So now they know this program exists.
Yeah.
Now, I just got through watching on my own time 7-minute YouTube video by Rome 978 is a tribute to Diddy. It was absolutely amazing, and powerful. I was almost in tears. I've never met your son. I was almost in tears when I saw that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just amazing with the outpouring and the love in those scenes. The people that came to him was absolutely so powerful. Can you describe to our viewers about that video in detail? And I really encourage everybody to go on and watch. We're going to have a link at the end of the show to this. How did all that come together?
Well, he was a personal friend. There's a clip on there of Brian running on top of the train.
I saw that.
That's real. And made me very nervous when I first saw it. He was very proud. He says, "Oh, the train was moving at the time," and that was for another music video that that Rome was doing. So he played a part in it. I've actually seen that one, but that's he was a rapper as well. So he used to go in some of his music videos. So when Brian passed away, that's when we found out that he wanted to do a tribute to my son. So he used some of that clip. They had us shooting and let everybody know to be there. Unfortunately, we weren't around to do it. And I think it was should have been for his friends anyway. And they all got together and they did this. He wrote a song, and that's why that's where
the song had a powerful message about the "Don't judge, you don't know me."
Yeah.
People unfortunately want to judge, like we've been saying. I've been saying since the beginning of the show. We used to picture in the old days the person that dies overdose of heroin, the heroin addict. Under the bridge, the guy without the job, the ragged clothes, no bath. That's what the old days were.
Right.
Now it has changed so much that anybody can do it. And in the video, they're showing you, "Don't judge me. You don't know me." And those words are so powerful, but that's coming from the heart. He's telling people. Now, speaking of videos, I saw that Diddy was also in the documentary with our past guest, Louis Diaz, in Beyond the Wall. We should have it coming up on our screen in a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
And he actually passed away during the filming of Beyond the Wall. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I remember he started working with Louis. He had known him, obviously, in his background. And he started working with Louis to do speaking arrangements.
Yes.
And he spoke at, I think it was a Time for a Change event that was my son's first time. And then after that, he came on and told me he was really excited. They're going to do a story of my life. Well, turned out to be something like this. And of course, it was 4 years later. I got a call, or I was told by his fiance at the time that Louis was looking to speak with me. So that was my first introduction to him. And he explained also, we talked a lot about Brian and what he went through and everything. And he actually asked permission later to come if they could do a tribute to him at the end of the movie. They wanted to do some clips.
Now, if people haven't seen that movie, they should check it out. It's on our website, mightydrum.org, and it's on the World Channel, PBS World Channel. And it's basically a documentary. If your viewers haven't seen it yet or they don't know about
America Reframed.
It's called America
is the series
Reframed.
that it's streaming on.
And what they did was they followed 5 inmates that have been released, and they followed them around and to see what their daily life was like after they've re-entered into the community. And Brian was one of them. And so they went through it, and if you haven't seen it, it's raw. It's very, what you see is what you get. Those are the guys, and that's what's happening. It's not scripted. So you're going to get the real deal when you see these guys, and they're all awesome guys.
Yeah.
From the movie, we got to know each and every one of those people, and they're all doing great. They're all super guys. And when Brian passed away, they asked us if they could come and do some of that filming of the wake.
And we
Well,
saw
it's a
that.
funeral.
The funeral.
We saw that on the thing. It was awesome.
Yeah.
That's when I was talking to Louis. I watched the movie first to get to know Louis and get to know the guys. Obviously, your son. And again, I'm sorry during the passing that your son passed.
He does amazing work,
Yep.
which is one of the things that inspired us to do what we do, to get involved because of the work that he does. And
Yep.
Jenny Phillips was a true friend as well.
Jenny Phillips, one of the producers who, we have to say props to Jenny. She passed away recently.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and she was one of the producers, and and Louis just awesome. You know, he
We
really...
started going to all the screenings.
We used to go to all the screenings.
And then we became part of the panel afterwards.
And then we became part of the panel and ended up talking because we were the parents, you know. So then they let me loose up there. So it's and that's just how it went. And the movie's just great.
And this video is going to make such a change in people's lives. So I understand you actually became friends with the makers at Northern Light Productions and let them out. Obviously, you mentioned to let film at the wake and the funeral service.
Sure.
I mean, I saw it. It was very, very enlightening.
Right.
It was a huge, that made a lot to my life. I got so enlightened on how things work and the love and the outpouring of support for the friends. I mean, these people at the wakes were genuinely crying. I mean, these are grown men. They look like tough people, and inside, they really, really loved your son.
Yeah, they did. They did, you know, and and they still do. You know, they still do tributes. I mean, when we went to the grave the other day, there was already stuff up there, people bringing flowers up there and stuff, just 4 years
Yeah, they have a
later.
gathering every
They have a
year.
gathering every year, you know, and
At that time, for his birthday, Christmas. And
You know, I really, really highly recommend you guys watch this video. It could be the best 75 minutes of your life. If you have a son, a daughter, someone that's using a substance, you'll get to know, understand how these people feel when they're using it. Now, you're in the music industry. You use your skills to write and produce Rise Above the Noise.
Right.
Can you share something with us? What's Rise Above the Noise like?
Rise Above the Noise is, it's a music video. I wrote the song Rise Above the Noise, and I wrote and produced the song, and I wrote and produced the video. How that came about was last year around this time, me and Joni went down to the first sober festival in the country. And it was done at McCoy Stadium in Rhode Island. And they had some people that I play with a lot were down there. James was down there, and the people that play with us were down there playing. But so we had guys from Steely Dan there, the guys from Boston were down there, kids from Santana. I mean, they had a pretty good crew. So Joni and I really weren't thinking about going, and then my friend Jeff Levine called me up and said, hey, you guys coming? And we said, well, I don't know. And he said, well, I got backstage passes. So I said, okay, we'll come down, you know, we'll come down and be part of the whole scene. So we went down there, and it was a pretty elaborate what they did. They actually had Macklemore there.
Wow.
So, yeah, so the woman that put it on spent about $500,000 to put that show on. And it really took me back because she wasn't really looking for a return. She's pretty well off, and she just wanted to do something, a sober concert, a sober festival for people that can go to a place and listen to music without being involved in drugs or alcohol and stuff like that. And they had Mackenzie Phillips there. She was the host
yeah, I know
from One Day at a Time,
Yeah.
right? So I'll tell you a funny story. We were backstage, and Joni says to me, hey, you know, there's Mackenzie Phillips right over there. And I'm like, where? She goes, right there. So I yell over, yo, Mackenzie. So she's going, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to go talk to her. So she comes over, and I shake her hand, and I start telling her about our story, like I'm here telling you guys about our story. And Mackenzie runs a treatment center in East LA now. She had a problem,
Yes.
and, you know, that she had to go deal with. So she's working with a lot of clients today. So we started exchanging cards and talking about it, and you know, at the end of the day, you know, it was a great time. We had an awesome time. But then about a month later, I had this dream that I was back at that concert. And I woke up in the morning, about 4:30 in the morning, and I always, next to my bed, I have pad and paper, you know, pen and paper, and I started writing this song. I just wrote the entire song while I was just sitting in bed. And I went downstairs and I said, hey, honey, you know, what do you think of this song? And she read it and she started crying. She's like, oh my God, this is beautiful.
Yes, Rise Above the Noise.
It's Rise Above the Noise.
You know, while we're in the studio, we're going to take a quick break. We happen to have the trailer for the video, which takes about 30 seconds. So we're going to go and watch the video for a couple of seconds.
For those you judge might never die. Above the noise, you hear us cry. There are people who can listen to the sound in the air, rise above the noise in the air. The sound not heard.
And we're back. Wow, that was powerful. It's about a 4 or 5 minute video. You guys got to watch this. This is absolutely amazing. You've seen the trailer. You've got to turn this on and watch this video. It'll change you. It'll really move you.
Yeah, you can watch it. It's on YouTube. It's called Rise Above the Noise, and it's by Fireheart. Fireheart is my music label.
Okay. That's
And
your label. Okay, I didn't know
yeah.
where the Fireheart came from when I watched it. Okay.
Yeah, so you saw the mother and
Yes.
the daughter. So when I wrote the song, I contacted all the musicians, and I said, we went in the studio and produced a song. And then the movie, the video really was going to be about Joni and our son Brian, but he passed. And Mighty Drum is all about positiveness. It's all about inspiring others. It's about kids in recovery. It's about giving them hope and letting them know that there's
Celebrating life.
Celebrating
getting
life.
people who to join.
Okay,
is
so
the idea.
because Brian passed, it was kind of rubbing up against our mantra, so to speak. So I have a friend of mine, her name is Maureen Kavanaugh, and she just wrote a book called If You Love Me.
Yes.
And it's on the New York Times bestseller list. It's about her journey with her daughter Katie, who got addicted to heroin at 15. She's 27 now, and she has 2 years clean. So I called up Maureen. I said, Maureen, I got the song I wrote, and I want to know if maybe you and Katie want to get involved. So we got together and we had lunch, and Maureen's pretty tough. She's hard. She's been through a lot, so nothing really rattles this lady. And I played the song for her, and she started crying.
Okay.
Just like Joni did. So that's how we got there.
Maybe a couple quick questions. We're going to be wrapping this up shortly.
Sure.
What are the children now, their day-to-day now with Dad gone? How are the children adjusting now?
Well, like I said, he's 15, so now he's in high school, and now you have all that awkwardness and everything. He doesn't really talk much about that, so I don't really have a whole lot.
So
of
he's not
that.
like an advocate for it, he's just doing his own thing, and
Yeah, yeah, he's trying to. He's just managing.
he just wants to
every
become a
day.
normal kid, and
Yeah, he's trying to find his way just like any other teenager would.
And his daughter was a little younger, so I don't think it really affected her quite as much
Yeah,
as it affected
yeah. I don't approach her about him because I did once, and it startled her, and I don't think she's ready to go there. So.
Yeah.
no, it sounds like Mighty Drum is going to make such a huge difference in people's lives. For the viewers that are watching this, I highly encourage corporations. This is an organization, obviously, that can use the funding. This is saving people's lives. They're not talking about it, they're out there doing it. And they're making an amazing difference. Joni, do you have any last words for our viewers?
Just keep the fight, keep the faith, and get educated. I was not educated, and you need to be educated on this so that you find the right way to help.
Yeah.
Joe, what would you like to tell our viewing audience?
Well, be creative, all right? Be creative. People always ask me, what can I do to help? And I say, be creative. We're human beings, and we have all these resources that we don't tap into. I managed to get a lot done in Mighty Drum because I use my creativity. Besides the videos, what we do is I just wrote a children's book. Actually, it's a series of books. It's called Muscles the Mighty Drum, The Adventures of Muscles the Mighty Drum. And the first one is called Albert Addiction.
Okay.
So be creative, use your own personal resources, and never get out of the fight because it's not going away.
Okay, to wrap this up, I would like to thank today's guests, Joan and Joni Maffei. If you're in need of a right treatment, you can reach Mighty Drum at mightydrum.org. If you'd like to see the YouTube video Diddy a Tribute, you can search Diddy-ROME 978 PROD DJ TEE Lee LEE official video. You can also view the short video Rise Above the Noise by Fireheart on YouTube. Beyond the Wall is also viewable on YouTube. As always, thank you for watching. Please share this program with your social media friends. If you know someone who's suffering from a substance abuse disorder, you can contact the Mass Substance Abuse Helpline. And that number, of course, is 1-800-327-5050. The show can be seen on a rotating basis on Woburn Public Media stations and on demand at their website and on YouTube. And as always, I absolutely have to thank the amazing staff at Woburn Public Media Center for making this possible. For America in Crisis, Breaking the Cycle of Addiction, my name is David Hunt, and as always, thank you for watching.